Today we're talking about the Vanguard Alpha. I had the opportunity to play the game a little bit earlier with other content creators. Activision allowed us to private test this thing and kind of get an idea of what the mode is all about. So I'm going to talk about all kinds of stuff, whether it's TTK, how to upgrade your weapon, what I recommend, different strategies, how the mode works, how the game feels, to give you kind of an idea of how good this is or not good, as some of the pros and cons, and then kind of guide you in the right direction if you want to try this out for yourself. All you got to have is a PlayStation. Jump on, download it from the App Store for free, the Play Store or whatever, and then you'll be able to get access to it. Unfortunately, if you're on PC or Xbox, you won't have an opportunity, at least in this play test that I'm aware of. So you're going to want to make sure that you're paying attention to as much gameplay as you want if you're really interested in finding out what's going on, or try to get your hands on a PlayStation, since you don't need to do anything to get access to the alpha. So overall, initial impressions, the mode was way more fun than I thought it would be. Initially, I even jumped in with creators. I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, I'm down to party up. I don't know if I'm going to play that long. Maybe like a few matches, just get some gameplay and then kind of move on. I don't really see myself enjoying it. That was my initial impression. But I ended up playing the full 2 hours that we got to play. And I got to play with different creators and all that type of stuff and go head to head against some demons in the lobby, which is disgusting sometimes how talented people are. But what I was able to see is get a good idea and grasp of how the game works, the mode functions, and to get a good general sense of different things that I would recommend if you're barely getting started, so you get a leg up for this weekend. So overall, mode's pretty straightforward. And initially, once you get started, it throws you into this ring, and it's a buying ring with all the other people that are going to be in your match. There's a total of 16 players if you're playing duos, and I would imagine that it would be up to like 24 if you're playing trios, and that because we only got a chance to play duos. You get 500 cash to start off with. You can go to any of these 4 different buy stations, and they each handle something different. One is you can buy a weapon, you can buy some equipment, which includes lethals and tacticals. You could buy some perks, and then you could buy some like alternative stuff, which is primarily streaks, but you can also get the opportunity to buy a single plate or multiple plates of armor. So we'll go through each of these as we go through. So when you get to the weapon buy station, pretty much you have the opportunity to buy 2 sets of weapons. So when you initially spawn in, you're going to be given 2 weapons. It's going to be an SMG with the pistol. It's either going to be the MP40 and the 1911, or you're going to get access to the Thompson and the machine pistol. Those will be your starting weapons. If you want to buy one of the weapons, you only have 500 cash, so that's only going to allow you to buy either the STG if you started with the MP40, or the bar if you started with the Thompson. And what I mean by that is, if you start with the MP40, your list of weapons is going to be fixed to the same 6 weapons in the box. You'll be able to buy the same weapons as you'll see here. We got the revolving shotgun, MP40, which you can buy back for free, 1911, the MG42, which is an LMG, and then we got the STG, and then the Car 98. Those are the 6 weapons you're going to have access to. Obviously, you'll need to earn some cash if you want to buy the other ones, but those are those weapons. If you happen to spawn in with the Thompson right off the bat, you're going to get access to the Thompson, the bar, an auto-loading shotgun, a machine pistol, a 3-line rifle, and then the DP27. And those are the options that you will have, and it's either those 6 or those 6. I was able to get my hands primarily on the SMGs and the rifles, just because those tend to be meta. So I was kind of giving good experience with those because I didn't know how good I'd be. But we'll talk a little bit about weapon stats when it comes to that aspect. Once you have your weapon, then you can get the potential to upgrade the weapon. And it's pretty straightforward, at least on controller. It was just right on the D-pad, and then you would upgrade the weapon. You can kind of see this on the bottom right of the HUD above your ammo count and stuff like that. It'll say like to 100, and then you upgrade it, and then it goes to 200, then 300, and this goes all the way up to 1,000, and it just continues by hundreds. The total cost to take a weapon from 0 all the way up to max level is 5,500 if you count 1, 2, 3 all the way up. This also means that you can equip 10 attachments on these individual weapons. So ideally, if you get a weapon, you're going to want to upgrade it a couple times right off the bat, because you're going to get a reflex ELO type optic. At least that was kind of the general feel, is you get an optic pretty early on, and then beyond that, then you get other stuff like maybe incendiary rounds, extended mags, a barrel. Pretty much all the attachments were accustomed to using in the gunsmith, but they would be totally randomized. You wouldn't be able to select them, but it also seemed like they were already pre-selected in a way, because we didn't end up with suppressors, and I didn't really end up with these huge extended mags. So maybe that's a way if they balanced it, they vetoed or blocked some of the attachments from being part of the RNG pool. So once you do that, obviously that's how the weapons work. I use, like I said, the STG and the bar just because I use those a lot during World War II. I want to kind of get a general feel. This time around, I'm probably going to plan to try the MG42 and things like that, or even maybe sniping, depending on. I'm not really a big sniper, but it is there available. So to give you kind of an idea of how much cash is earned throughout the matches, we'll talk a little bit about how money is awarded. So right off the bat, you start off with 500 cash. That's kind of like your default. You can choose to spend on that what you will, and once you spend it, that's it. It's gone. You got to accumulate more. For every standard kill, and you'll know what I mean by standard kill, but anytime you get a kill, you get awarded $100. And that's regardless if you go on a bloodthirsty or you go on a merciless. There's no special money awarded for any variable of kills. It's all going to be 100. So 1 kill is 100, 2 kills is 100, 3 kills 100, 5 kills 100. So that's how you accumulate money. If you get a first blood in a match, so you come out aggressive, you get a kill on the enemy, you will be awarded 500 cash, not 500 plus 100, just 500 for the first blood. So that's pretty valuable to come out aggressive and try and get that first pick. Either way, 500 cash will go to somebody in the match, but it's only awarded to one person who gets that first blood. On top of that, there's money just kind of lingering around the map. After you kill someone, there's money down on the floor. There's money just kind of scattered around. You can probably get a good 500 just from floor looting as you're running around the map. You don't have to interact with it. You just walk over it and it automatically picks it up. On top of that, if you win a round, you'll be awarded 1,000. We'll talk a little bit about how the mechanics work on the rounds as we go a little bit forward. And then there's also an elimination bonus. You are starting with a set number of lives. Once those lives go down to 0 and the enemy team kills you, they are awarded with 500. If you run up against a team that no longer has lives and you finish them off, you will get 500 elimination bonus. Plus, you're going to get the match reward, which is 1,000. Plus, for getting the kill, you get an extra 100. So if you eliminate a team, you're getting like 1,600 instantly just for that one kill. Translates to an elimination, translates to the round win. And those are pretty much the basic ways to earn cash. Now let's talk a little bit about the perks, because this is the interesting part with the perks is they very limited the perks to these 7 perks here. We have Demolition, which gets you an extra lethal and allows you to throw indicator, which you can kind of see how that looks on screen. There's like a little bit of a line where to show you where it ricochets, where it bounces. I think this is something pretty good for newer players, but obviously if you've played the game long enough, you'll get kind of used to those things where you won't need it, but you're still going to spawn in with an extra lethal. Tracker. Enemies leave behind footprint trails, see markers at enemy death locations, and hide marker and death location. So if you kill someone, it's not going to show, hey, he was right there. This is kind of more important when you play with randoms, but if you played with somebody, they would probably call out, hey, he's over there, and they would just say where they're at. Double time works pretty much exactly like Modern Warfare and Warzone. Double time duration of tactical sprint, so that's the key. And then increase crouch movement speed by 30%, and that's normal as well. Ghost is an interesting one. Undetectable by spotter aircraft and recon perks whenever you are moving, planting, defusing bombs, and controlling kill streaks. Then there's also one called survival training. And this one's much more like tac mask. Maximize resistance to stun effects and then immune to gas, so you're not going to be coughing or anything like that. High alert. Your vision pulses when enemy outside of your view see you. So pretty straightforward. And then forward intel. See indicators for enemy reinforcements on your minimap. Minimap shows a larger area. So to show this specifically, I actually got 2 examples of this, so we can go ahead and look at these. The thing I did want to show off here was in regards to the minimap. I hope they fix this because it's been significantly better, especially in World War II. It was way better. You can see that I have a solid triangle here. How World War II did this mechanic is that it would be an outline of a triangle, and then when you fire your weapon or you were visible on the enemy player's minimap, you would pop up a little bit solid triangle. So I'll show you the difference here because it's incredibly hard to see, and I don't think most people will notice this. For Ghost and appearing on the minimap, I want to include this part with the parts that we just talked about with perks. Also, just a heads up, enemies appear as diamonds now. They're not circles. And you can see they have the little top hat area, and they'll have a bottom one if our roles were reversed. That's how it would appear. Instead of the circles with those little diamond or like you know, hats on top of them. So what I'll show you here is it'll be hard for you to notice. And then what you'll see here is we have a UAV going, right? You might not even noticed it, but right here, look at how it lights up. See right here? It's almost impossible to see. You got to look closely. See how it changes from off to on? And then it stays on. And then look at as I move and I'm not firing, I also disappear right here. See how it disappears? It fades away. So that's how it does it. Almost impossible to see in real time. This is something like I am only being able to see here, where maybe the enemy is seeing me, or they have a UAV passing, I wasn't moving fast enough, or because I fired my weapon, I stayed on the minimap for like, or not on the minimap because you don't pop up on the minimap, but you will pop up on the compass. So maybe that's where that element's coming into play. So I thought I'd show that part. Now let's look at forward intel. All right, so pretty much what I was able to get is I was at the buy station, I had the minimap, without the forward intel. As you can see right here, it's kind of zoomed in. And then with the forward intel, after I bought the forward intel as a perk, you can see that it pops up here on the screen and we have a little bit more zoomed out view. If we overlay these images, we end up with a 40% more area that is visible. So when you buy forward intel, it is doing that part. I was looking for the element where it would show reinforcements. I don't think it really works on this one in this particular mode. I think regular 6v6, it'll probably show, hey, you know, enemy spawned over here. So you have a little bit better spawn awareness. And here, I think it would give away too much information, so I don't think it's included as this part of the build or for the alpha. We have the equipment. You get the frag and a stun for free. The frag is a typical regular frag and the stun's a normal stun. The blast radius on the stun didn't seem overpowered or anything like that, but obviously I didn't get a huge amount of playtime. The actual gammon bomb right here is a 200, so you can basically swap out your lethals and your tacticals for 200 and you pretty much would keep those. This is an impact grenade. It's basically a Semtex that we're used to from other Call of Duties. Throwing knife, standard throwing knife. I did not try to use a throwing knife. And then we have the gas grenades, which are normal gas grenades that we have in Modern Warfare. And then we have the S-Mine, which are a little bit more campy. But those are great in these scenarios because if somebody has a little bit weird spawn or they're trying to go for a flank, that could give you a little bit of audio indicator or give you a free kill since people aren't able to run EOD as part of that. Then we go into the support section. So the support section is pretty interesting because it kind of just mixes whatever's left over, throws in a couple streaks and armor. You could buy an armor plate, which is only 100, or you could buy a full stack of armor plates, which is 3. For 250, you kind of get a discount where it would normally cost 300. Extra life is 3,000, pretty costly based off the numbers that we talked about. Spy plane, only 500. Keeping in mind that this auto activates at the beginning of a round, so you might not want to stack this with your teammate. Don't have them buy one and you buy one. You probably want to do that a little bit separately, save that cash. Otherwise, they'll overlap and then you kind of waste it because you don't get the choice of when you call it in. It calls it in right away, which will become important of how valuable those are, especially in the first round to at least get you started. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. Keeping in mind that this one could be shot down in multiplayer. I didn't try to shoot any down because you don't get an audio cue that the enemy has one. If they have one, there's no audio cue. You see it pop up on your screen, you know, spy plane called in and that type of thing. But it will reveal the enemy position on the minimap to allies, and it activates right at the start of the round, so you don't get that choice. So then there's the flame knot, which is disgusting. We didn't actually get to use this. We ended up running against some people. I think they were devs who had played it. We ended up running them in the last round. It was pretty even. And then we go into it, was like, what the hell is this? This is the flame knot is kind of broken. Got 3 kills on us before we did it, like took it down. It's very tanky because it is like a juggernaut with unlimited flame, so they can just keep going, and the range on the flames are pretty broken. I love to see this in MP, see how broken it is, but in this mode, it was definitely a little bit different because you know where they're at. You can kind of hold the sight line, but the range on the flamethrowers are ridiculous. V2 rocket. V2 rocket drops a V2 rocket, killing all players. This is like the in-game nuke they had in World War II, if you're not really familiar. The fact that it's at 25K, I don't think this is really attainable. I kind of did the backwards math to try and figure out what you would need to do this. And you would essentially need to go perfect all the way through almost the majority of your matches. You'd need people to survive long enough so you can get a lot of first bloods. The rounds would have to go into extra innings. You'd have to be in perfect scenario to eliminate teammates. So when you face them, they were getting their last lives so that you can get some easy 500 here and there. And then for you to get them and not your teammates because you guys can't share money. So If somebody gets that, it's going to be very crazy. Maybe in trios, the money dynamic works a little bit different, or you get a little bit better at looting the cash that's on the floor, and that could add up to a couple thousand. My best round, which I posted on the second channel, which was a 20 kill game, I only ended up with 17,000 cash, which is kind of crazy because I start off on a merciless in that gameplay, which you guys will see over there. And then we have the Franken gun, which is kind of weird because it's kind of like a death machine, but with explosive rounds. So I didn't get a chance to use that, but equips a machine gun with explosive rounds, a fixed number of bullets, persists through death until ammo is depleted. So pretty much if you die, you keep it. I'm not sure if you keep it into the next round, so maybe you could save this and sandbag it for like multiple rounds, because it just basically says that you still keep it through death until the ammo is depleted. So maybe you can just save this for a while if you manage to have 6,000 cash right away. With these things, it's very hard to get the TTK, but I kind of got a rough estimate. I was able to fire certain rounds, test it from the match, like where I'm fully sustained fire. And then I fire a certain amount of rounds. I track how long that takes. And then we get kind of a rough estimate of the rate of fire. We can go ahead and get a rough estimate on the TTK based off the number of hit markers that took. There were different scenarios where I'd get an extra, like it would kill them a little bit quicker, usually when a headshot's involved, and maybe if they were at range, it would feel like it would take a little bit longer. No clue how incendiary rounds impact this TTK. This kind of gives us a rough estimate. So for the times that I was using the STG, it has a fire rate of 581, which is very similar to the Cold War AK-47. So it's not fast at all, but very reliable. But this is a low recoil gun versus the Cold War AK, a little bit higher recoil, higher damage gun. It was about 4 shots to kill. I felt like the majority of the instances that I got into a gunfight, sometimes people have plates, so it kind of throws it off. It felt like it was a 4-shot TTK, which in this particular case, you end up with a 300 TTK, which is actually pretty balanced. It feels a little bit closer to, this is a little bit on the slower end compared to Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare was like a 2 to 3 shot to kill in a lot of these cases. So you're getting like an extra shot to kill, which is good. This is balanced, in my opinion. It gives you a chance to react. When we go to the bar, this is a very slow firing. It actually fires about as slow as the Odin from Modern Warfare. So if you're used to that gun, it fires a little bit slower than that. There were instances where it was like a little bit faster, but the more accurate, because I got a full 30 round mag where I was able to test it in the private area when you're buying. I just shot and I was able to get that measurement. It was closer to 360. So a little bit slower on the slower end. But this one was about 3 shots to kill. There were instances where it felt like it was a 2-shot to kill, where maybe I hit him in the chest and I got a headshot, and that's where you're deleting people. And that's where it's going to be the risk reward with these types of guns that fire slow, but have a high DPS output. And that's the way the bar was in World War II. I believe it was a 3-shot to kill, and it was 2-shot if you got a headshot in the mix or something along those lines. So it's a very comparable. I'm feeling like the TTK is very similar to the World War II based off the feel. So the 1928 Thompson has a pretty decent fire rate, almost at 800, which is very similar to the MP5. Obviously, it's a higher recoil weapon if you've ever used it. And I imagine the TTK would be between 4 to 6 shots, depending on how close you are. If you're point blank, it'll probably have a fast enough TTK. But I think it was right around 4 to 5 shots at close. And then at range, it would be like 5 to 6. So this is giving us around a 300 TTK in a lot of these scenarios, as you can kind of see through. MP40 was very similar to the Uzi fire rate, but it doesn't have an open bolt delay. So you're going to end up with these individual TTKs. So whatever you fire at the Uzi, pretty slow. At 600, it's not like crazy, considering a lot of meta guns usually end up being between 700 and 900 for most people, just because they're very forgiving. This one right at 600. Ends up with the TTK of right around 300 as well. So now let's go ahead and talk about the actual mode. The actual mode's pretty straightforward. You do that buy phase right in the beginning, you get the 500 cash, then you jump into 3 rounds. Whatever you accumulate during those 3 rounds, you have 12 lives. Your opponents have 12 lives to start, and you slowly whittle each other down. You load in. If you manage to get 7 kills because it is respawn, or you happen to have 7 deaths, that's going to count against those 12 lives you start off with. And then once you move on to the next round, you only start with 7 lives. And then if you manage to keep those lives or you lose 2, then you'd be down to 5 lives. Once your lives hit 0, you no longer get respawn. So whatever you spawn in with, that is your last life, and that is it. After 3 rounds of competing against other people on the map, there's a huge map where it's all one map. So it's like you can hear all the gunfights of everyone else fighting, and the matches starting at the same time, everything. And there's 4 different maps with the center being the buying hub. And you could go ahead and spectate, but there wasn't a lot of time for that. It would be like normally you go to the buy and it kicks you out. You're right into the next match against another 2v2, And in some instances, you could have a lot of confidence because maybe you have 9 lives, the opponents have 2. So you know you can play a little bit more aggressive. Or maybe you have the 2 lives and they have 9, so you got to play a little bit more passive to try and get safe kills without dying, get to cover, that type of stuff. So after 3 rounds, be another buy round. 3 rounds, another buy round. 3 rounds, another buy round. You pretty much do this until all the opponents have been eliminated. And it ends up being a lot more fun than I initially thought it would be. I thought it would just be like gunfight, which is a little bit more like S&D, which in its own way is fun, but not really what I would enjoy playing long term. But this, you get your 12 lives. If you happen to be decent, you're going to get some good kills. And you're going to be rocking and rolling, and then you're going to be eliminating opponents. You'll be racking up cash from all the first bloods, the winning, and all that type of stuff. So overall, that's kind of how it builds out, and then eventually you'll make it at the end. And sometimes you had a good run. I know there was times where we ran up against good people at the end, and they just had more lives, and it was just no matter what we did, we didn't have hardly a chance. And then vice versa, where we were way ahead in lives and basically it was guaranteed win. And then other times where it was pretty close and it just came down to who played that situation better. And I think this is going to be like a pretty fun mode. I don't know about long term, but it is definitely a unique take on the gunfight with the battle royale elements, last person, and all the stuff that they talked about. It definitely seems like it's a pretty good place. Gives you a good access to feeling all the mechanics, the weapons, and a good variety before we get into the beta and eventually get to try out the full game. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, learned something new. Please do me a favor, hit the like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Appreciate your support. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.